So this is the opening I'm working with. I have framed this and sheeted it so it's ready for the window. I'm going to be doing a casement. Always just double check your rough opening. Like I said, I did this so I know what I did and I know it's level and square. I'm still going to shim up from the bottom just so I have some space to seal around the window. So I'm going to preset some shims because I'm doing it by myself. So I'm just going to shoot a couple down once I get it level. And I'm just going to make sure that the shims are back from the outside edge of the sheeting there. Now I'm going to set the window in the opening on top of the shims and push it all the way to one side and make a mark, and then push it all the way to the other side and make a mark, and then push it back and eyeball the center, and then push it back to my mark I made that is center in the opening. I'm going to double check level, never hurts to double check it, and then put one in. I'm also going to check for square here in a second. I'm using 1 3/4 roofing nails. If you don't feel comfortable with hammers, I would definitely do a panhead screw. They're also just easier in general. I just feel fine with using roofing nails. I'm double checking square there, and also that my trim on the outside looks even and everything like that, so that both the inside I have room to insulate up against the window, and also on the outside that my trim looks correct too. I'm just going to put a nail in every other hole on the flange. That's what I found to do. I don't really have any reason for doing that other than that feels like enough to hold the window. If you're using nails, just definitely take your time and maybe even use a nail set. Just make sure you're not going to hit the flange, because on vinyl windows like this one, if you hit the flange, it's kind of done. So just be careful with that. I'm going to use some Pella flashing tape. You could use any, there's many kinds. Pella I think has one of the best, but it doesn't have to be this, just any kind of flashing tape. I'm going to do this to the sheeting, and then I'm going to go up and onto the actual window itself about 3/8. I know my trim is going to be 3/4, so I usually just roll it up onto the edge slightly, and I don't think you need to do that. I just like to do that. I think it gives a little bit more protection in that corner. But this is all pressure sensitive. All tapes are pressure sensitive, so if you don't seat it correctly with your fingers, or if you have something to roll it on, it's not going to adhere properly. So make sure you're definitely pressing it in and seating it correctly. So I always do the sides first and then the head with taping. I think that's just kind of general practice, and then I don't tape the bottom, just if there is any water it can escape there. But yeah, just make sure your surface is clean, there's no dust, and that you're seating it correctly, because if there's something like dust behind it and it doesn't adhere properly, it's not going to do anything. So just want to make sure the surface is clean and you press it in there. So yeah, this is where you can see it's rolled up onto the edge about 3/8, and that's just generally what I do. So now I'm going to go inside and fill any voids with this red foam. I use the blue cans or the yellow foam up against the window and anything that's a little bit bigger void, because this stuff hardens and doesn't have any flexibility. The blue cans or the yellow foam does, so that's why you use that up against the window, and the red stuff on bigger stuff like this. You can't really go wrong with having too much, other than if it leaks out and gets on your window. So other than that, better to have more than less on something like this. So this is where I'm using the blue foam, or the yellow foam I should say, in the blue can, and it specifically says on it it's for windows and doors, and that is what you should use it for. So here I'm just making sure that obviously I'm fully filling up the void. I also don't want to go so crazy to where it'll expand and then get all over the inside of the window. Now I'm gonna do a jam or a trim piece on the inside that'll go right up against it, so it doesn't need to be perfectly clean, but it definitely does. You don't want it to spill all over and stain, because it will stain the vinyl windows. So now that I'm all sealed up on the inside, I'm gonna go back out and work on the trim. I'm gonna be using some 5/4 PVC for the headpiece, just so I can give myself a reveal on the side pieces. I think anything to give yourself something to caulk to, the better. But I want to make sure I'm tight side to side, but not up against the vinyl window, because it'll have movement, so you don't want to go super tight and then have problems later. I'm going to back caulk the piece where they intersect and then push it up into the caulking. I think it just gives a little bit extra added insurance of a seal, and then nail it off. I'm going to do the same on this other side. And again, I'm tight up and down, but not side to side. I'm just going to finish by doing this bottom piece and nailing it, and then I'll get to sealing it up. So for this, I'm using Volcom. I'm just using some white, and anywhere on this one specifically, I'm just going to caulk the window in. You don't necessarily need to, especially if you're tight up against the window. Maybe against the brick you need to, but I'm just going to do both sides just to make sure, and yeah, finish this one up. I'm going to pour a sill on the bottom here later, but I'm just going to caulk this at the bottom for now. So this is the window all finished up, and now every window is going to be slightly different. Obviously there's an egress window underneath an overhang, and I have quite a bit of grade going the other way, so water's not slipping towards it, all those kinds of things. So you could do more or less and it would probably be fine, but this is just the way I did it, and I feel good about it.